It's July 6th, 2009. MySpace goes silent. Two names vanish from Panic at the Disco's band overnight. Ryan Ross and John Walker. Gone without a farewell or a warning. Just a cryptic post. We wish them the best. For a generation raised on eyeliner and existential lyrics, Panic wasn't just a band. It was a feeling. The soundtrack to heartbreaks, breakdowns, and online obsessions. And every era came with a headline that made the internet explode. From kisses that launched 1,000 fanfics to a single piano note that could still trigger emotional flashbacks. And because this video dives into the most shocking turning points in the entire PATD era, make sure you stay till the end, because the final moment isn't just surprising, it's the one that'll truly break your heart. It was 2009, the day Panic became two bands and nothing was ever the same. It was the crack heard across the internet. Ryan Ross and John Walker announced they were leaving Panic at the Disco. The message was polite, the tone calm, but fans instantly knew it wasn't. For years, Brendan Urie and Ryan Ross had been the creative force of the band. When they split, it wasn't just a breakup. Instead, it was divorce court for the emo generation. The fallout was immediate. Two bands emerged from the wreckage: Panic with Brendan and Spencer, and The Young Vanes, Ryan and John's retro project. Tumblr was divided: Team Brendan or Team Ryan. Friendships, playlists, and fandom forums split overnight. Behind the scenes, the split wasn't as sudden as it seemed. Tensions had been boiling since the Pretty Odd era. Ryan wanted more Beatles, Brendan wanted more Queen, and their visions clashed like glitter and gasoline. There were rumors that Ryan and Brendan hadn't even spoken directly before the announcement. The decision was handled through management, and Ryan reportedly packed up his things in silence before the next rehearsal. It was surprising when fans later discovered that Brendan's version of Panic kept the band's MySpace password, while Ryan's The Young Vanes had to start fresh. It was a digital breakup for a generation that grew up online. Even years later, Ryan admitted in interviews that he didn't like the person he was becoming in Panic, a confession that hit fans like a final echo of heartbreak. It was the first heartbreak Panic fans ever knew, and the one that still defines every breakup meme since. The sound that launched 1,000 flashbacks. It's only one note, one sharp G on the piano. But ask anyone who lived through 2006 Tumblr, they all say it was a war siren. The opening key of "I Write Sins, Not Tragedies" became one of the most iconic sounds in internet culture. The moment that note played, you could feel the collective gasp. Every scene kid bracing for lyrics they'd screamed into bathroom mirrors. What's wild? That single note was never meant to stand alone. Producer Matt Squire once revealed that the piano intro was almost cut entirely because the band feared it sounded too theatrical for radio, until Brendan insisted it stay. That decision accidentally developed one of the most viral sounds in alt-rock history. Now, years later, the meme resurfaced on TikTok and Vine. Edits, remixes, G-Note trauma compilations. It became shorthand for a very specific generation of pain and eyeliner. Even YouTubers began staging G-Note pranks, walking into Hot Topic stores or emo nights, playing that single note just to watch people flinch, scream, or dramatically collapse. At one point, a viral Reddit thread called it the Millennial Pavlov Bell, because that note didn't just start a song, it triggered a memory. That one note was an instant flashback to a glitter-covered era where MySpace bios quoted Panic lyrics, and everyone believed their heartbreak was cinematic. And let's not forget the irony. I Write Sins, Not Tragedies won MTV's Video of the Year in 2006, beating icons like Christina Aguilera and Madonna. Yet, what survived most wasn't the award, but that single haunting G. The G-Note became a joke, then nostalgia, then sacred internet relic. A sound that defined an entire teenage subculture. The kiss that launched 1,000 fanfics. In the middle of Time to Dance, under blinding lights and audience screams, Brendan Urie turned to Ryan Ross and kissed him. It was quick, playful, and gone in a heartbeat. But it changed everything. That kiss became an instant legend. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't explained. And in an era when MySpace was gospel, it spread faster than any single they'd ever released. GIFs, photo edits, fanfiction, entire communities forming around the ride-in ship. It was the birth of an internet cult. Within hours, message boards exploded. One fan wrote, "Did we just witness history or heartbreak?" Another swore they saw Brendan mouth, "I love you," before the kiss. It didn't matter if any of it was true. The myth had already taken root. For a generation still figuring out what it meant to see same-sex affection on stage, especially in an emo scene dominated by masculine energy, it was electric. Fans began dissecting every lyric Ryan wrote afterward. Northern Downpour, She Had the World. Were they love songs or coded messages? When Brendan got a shh finger tattoo and Ryan had matching unspoken lyrics, fans went wild. Tumblr exploded with theories, like a full-blown detective board. But boy, was it wild. Raiden is real wasn't just any fan theory. It was religion. The band never confirmed or denied anything, but the silence only amplified the obsession. Some fans even believe the tension from that moment was the spark that eventually fractured the band's core. That one impulsive kiss blurred the line between friendship, performance, and something dangerously intimate. Nearly 2 decades later, it still stands out as one of the most iconic, queer-coded moments in pop-punk music history. A single, scandalous second that rewrote the entire fandom. When Panic said screw the eyeliner and went full Beatles core, gone were the circus costumes, the gothic grandeur, the carnival chaos of a fever you can't sweat out. In 2008, Panic returned, minus the exclamation point and with a sound no one expected. Pretty Odd wasn't emo. It was sunshine-soaked psychedelia, filled with harmonies, flutes, and vintage suits straight out of the 60s. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Fans didn't either. Tumblr threads lit up with confusion and outrage. "This isn't Panic anymore," one post screamed, while another dared to call it the most beautiful betrayal ever. Some called it bold reinvention. Others called it betrayal. The eyeliner was gone, replaced by flowers and wide smiles. Commercially, it didn't match their debut, but over time, Pretty Odd became a cult classic, the misunderstood middle child of Panic's discography. Now, here's the funny thing. The album was almost entirely recorded in a converted church in LA, with vintage instruments handpicked by Ryan Ross himself, giving it that authentic 60s feel. It showed their willingness to evolve, to throw away the formula that made them famous, and chase something beautiful, even if it didn't sell. Fans who first hated it later admitted, "I hated it at first, then it stole my soul." In hindsight, it was Ryan Ross's parting love letter, the moment he said everything he couldn't put into words. And here's the kicker. Brendan reportedly hated the initial mixes and fought to bring some of the old theatrical energy back, making the tension behind the scenes real. What once divided the fandom now feels like prophecy. The most un-Panic record turned out to be the most human one, and the internet still can't decide if it's genius or heartbreak in a vinyl sleeve. The song that climbed the charts and burned the fanbase. It was everywhere. Commercials, stadiums, social media. High hopes turned Panic at the Disco into a global pop juggernaut. But for the diehard fans, it was the moment the band sold out, and the internet exploded. It was their biggest hit, and for many, their breaking point. The song was undeniable, catchy, motivational, relentlessly optimistic. It even set a record as the longest-running Hot 100 entry for Panic, staying over 60 weeks on the chart. But that was the problem. The dark glamour, the wordy wit, the theatrical chaos of early Panic was gone. Fans felt replaced by a new audience, one that didn't know the band's history, only its Billboard success. So what do you do when your favorite band becomes a viral rage? Do you still belong there? Or are you just watching strangers dance to your childhood? Every famous video and corporate deal widened the gap. Panic wasn't the emo misfit anymore. It was a brand. The same band that once mocked conformity was now the soundtrack to political campaigns, motivational videos, and even gym playlists. Some fans admitted online, "I used to memorize every lyric with tears in my eyes. Now I skip this on my playlist." Brendan Urie himself later admitted in interviews that he was worried longtime fans would feel alienated by the mainstream success, but he didn't realize just how intense the backlash would be. For the fans who grew up with eyeliner and rock, High Hopes felt like watching your best friend sell their soul for radio play. Brendan Urie had become a one-man empire, but the more he rose, the more people felt left behind. The question remains, could one song really divide an entire fandom? Well, for Panic, it sure redefined who their fans were and who they would never be again. The silence that spoke volumes and haunted the fandom. By 2020, the fandom that once worshipped Panic began to fracture. Allegations of misconduct, controversy surrounding Brendan's behavior, and frustration with his public statements turned admiration into unease. The internet debated endlessly. Defenders, critics, former fans. Social media lit up with cries of, "I can't believe it," and "he wasn't the person I thought," as younger fans discovered old headlines, while longtime fans argued fiercely over context. Every live stream, every tweet was analyzed frame by frame. Brendan's silence only deepened the tension, leaving the fandom to fill in the gaps, and their imaginations ran wild. What made it worse was how personal it felt. For nearly 2 decades, Panic had been a home for outcasts, your teenage diary, your emo anthem, your safe space for nights spent in heartbreak. Now that home seemed damaged beyond repair. The accusations were never fully addressed, and no apology ever came that satisfied the audience. For many, this was the real breaking point, the moment Panic stopped being a band and became a ghost of what it once stood for. It wasn't about gossip or drama. It was about the betrayal of trust, the erosion of connection between artist and audience. The fans who'd once screamed Brendan's lyric with pride began to fall silent. And in that silence, Panic quietly unraveled, leaving behind the question that still haunts the scene. Could the band we loved ever be the same again? The goodbye that didn't feel like one. After 18 years, countless reinventions, and one man left standing, Panic at the Disco ended not with fireworks, but with a note. No press conference, no farewell tour. Just an Instagram post. Brendan Urie and his wife were expecting a child, and Panic would be no more. It should have been closure. Instead, it felt like a ghosting. Fans scrolled, waiting for something more. A final show, a thank you, a goodbye worthy of the chaos that came before. But nothing came. The announcement was polite, distant, strangely unceremonious. For a band that once thrived on spectacle, it was the quietest ending imaginable. And maybe that's why it hurt so much. Because for those who'd grown up with Panic, this wasn't just the end of a band. It was the end of an era. The end of teenage Tumblr nights, eyeliner tears, and that one G note that could still stop your heart. It felt like saying goodbye to who we were when Panic first made us believe that music could be theater, heartbreak, and confession, all at once. Panic at the Disco didn't just make hits, they made history. Every era, every meltdown, every dramatic twist mirrored the internet's evolution itself. From MySpace to TikTok, from forums to fandom wars. They blurred the line between performance and persona, sincerity and spectacle. And even in their messiest moments, they gave us something rare, emotional honesty dressed in glitter and chaos. Maybe that's why Panic mattered so much, because behind the theatrics was something real. A reminder that art can be awkward, self-destructive, and beautiful, all at once. The internet never forgot them, because Panic was never just a band. It was a mirror. And for an entire generation, that reflection still glows in eyeliner and heartbreak. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into your favorite bands, and the stories behind them drop every week.